They're always watching you. Not always with open hostility, but with quiet calculation. They're not waiting for you to fail loudly. They're waiting for a flicker, a single reaction, a hint of emotion, something they can decode and use against you later. Every word, every pause, every change in your tone, it's all information to them. Because once they understand you, they can begin to control you. This is exactly why Machiavelli carved one rule deeper than all others. Never let them read you. Because the moment you become predictable, you become vulnerable. When people can anticipate your next move, your fears, your hopes, your values, they'll tailor their attacks with surgical precision. You won't even see it coming. And by the time you do, it'll already be too late. Machiavelli's law of power preservation isn't about faking who you are. It's about mastering something far more subtle, the art of opacity, the ability to move through the world like a shadow in daylight. You're visible, but untouchable, present, but unreadable. Because mystery doesn't just attract curiosity, it commands respect. It creates fear. Mystery, when wielded properly, becomes a weapon. Here's the first principle. Emotion is data. And most people give that data away for free. They wear their hearts on their sleeves thinking it makes them honest or strong. But to Machiavelli, that's a mistake. Every sigh, every twitch, every forced smile, it all reveals your code. Are you easily flattered? Easily offended? Do you crave validation or crumble under pressure? People are decoding you constantly, not because they care, but because knowledge is leverage, and they'll use it. Not today, not tomorrow, but when it matters most. So learn emotional stillness. That doesn't mean becoming robotic. It means becoming unreadable. You can laugh, but on your own terms. You can frown, but only when it costs you nothing. You become the kind of person whose silence says everything and nothing at once. The kind of person who frustrates manipulators because there's nothing for them to grab onto. You become like water, impossible to hold, yet everywhere. Second principle. Kill assumptions by being unpatterned. Most people are walking patterns. You insult them, they defend. You flatter them, they soften. You ignore them, they chase. Predictability is death. Machiavelli understood that power survives through unpredictability. When no one knows what you'll do next, they panic. They hesitate. And hesitation, that's where you win. If someone expects you to argue, agree. If they expect you to panic, smile. If they expect you to retreat, move forward slowly. You don't need to be extreme. You just need to be off-pattern. Because the human brain clings to patterns it wants to predict. And when people can't predict you, they stop trying to control you. And when they stop trying, you become untouchable. Third principle. Control your narrative or someone else will. When people don't understand you, they'll start creating stories, lies, labels, myths. That's human nature. We fear what we can't define. Machiavelli never left definition to chance. He didn't overshare or over-explain. He gave people just enough to form a version they couldn't manipulate. So craft your persona carefully. Speak less, but with intent. Be calm in chaos. Be polite, but distant. Be present, but never too available. Let people wonder. Let them invent their own theories about you. Because when someone's guessing, they're already off balance. And that's exactly where you want them. Fourth principle. Don't be nice. Be strategic. Niceness is predictable. It's often born from the need to be liked. And manipulators can smell that desperation instantly. Machiavelli didn't believe in being cruel. He believed in being deliberate. Be kind if it benefits your position. Be quiet if it exposes their noise. Help them if it gains you leverage. But never let kindness be your default setting. Because when you're too good, people start testing you. They push boundaries. They drain your energy. And when they're done, they discard you. They already know your limits. Your power doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being respected. And people respect what they can't fully read, what they can't predict. They respect mystery backed by a sharp mind, a storm hidden behind a still face. And that leads us to the final truth of this first section. When you reveal nothing, you own everything. Machiavelli didn't just keep secrets, he was the secret. His enemies feared him not because they knew his plans, but because they didn't. That's how you must move through the world. You don't owe explanations. You don't justify your silence. You don't need to be understood. Every time you reveal something personal to the wrong person, you hand them a weapon. Even your strengths can be turned against you if someone knows how to push them. So let people misjudge you. Let them underestimate you. Let them gossip, wonder, speculate. Because while they're trying to read you, you're already reading them. You know their fears, their insecurities, their weaknesses. You study them while staying invisible. And when the right moment comes, you act not with noise, not with drama, but with precision. Because you were never here to be seen. You were here to win. Let them look at you and see a blank page. Let them ask questions and get only silence, or answers so smooth they slip through their fingers. That's how you preserve power, not by showing your cards, but by making everyone forget there even is a game. Machiavelli's power law demands subtlety. Your strength shouldn't just be invincible. It should be unreadable. The world will pressure you to open up, to be authentic, to be vulnerable. But that's just a trap. What they really want is data, information, hooks. Once they know what hurts you, they know how to hurt you. Once they know what you crave, they know how to bait you. You're not rejecting connection. You're denying access. Because real connection doesn't demand your soul, and real power never apologizes for its mystery. The next step is crucial. Blend in, but don't belong. Machiavelli warned rulers not to stand too far above their people, but not to sink too low among them either. The same is true for your public image. When people think you're one of them, they relax. But if they sense you're different, they start studying you harder. So, you blend in. You dress like them. You speak like them. You laugh at the right times. You participate, but only just enough. You're never fully in. You don't overshare. You don't gossip. You don't show preference. You're not ice. You're fog. They can see you, but they can't grasp you. And when they can't grasp you, they stop trying to trap you. Because you're not predictable enough to exploit, yet too intriguing to ignore. And that's where true power lives, not in being above others, but in being unreadable among them. Now we move deeper to the art of weaponized ambiguity. Because manipulators and weak minds crave clarity. They want yes or no, friend or enemy, black or white. Clarity gives them control. But ambiguity? Ambiguity makes them squirm. And that discomfort is where your leverage begins. Machiavelli knew that the one who keeps others guessing always holds the upper hand. If someone asks you a question designed to corner you, don't answer, deflect, reframe, turn the question back on them. If they demand your opinion on a controversy, give a general truth instead. If they try to rush you into a decision, delay. Create space. Let silence work for you. Because when people can't categorize you, their mind starts doing the work for you. They fill in the blanks with their own fears and projections. And while they're busy trying to decode your motives, you move freely, unseen and unrestrained. You become the unknown variable, The one no one can outplay because you were never fully in the game to begin with. But even the unreadable make mistakes. And one of the most dangerous is what Machiavelli called overcorrection after exposure. Let's say someone reads you once. You flinch, you react, you reveal more than you wanted. The instinct is to fix it, to explain, to prove that you're still in control. But that's exactly what they want, a sign that they got to you. Instead, do what Machiavelli would. Don't fix it. Reframe it. If someone sees through you once, twist the perception. Say something ambiguous. Sometimes even masks need to breathe. Or, maybe that's exactly what I wanted you to see. And then stop talking. Don't deny their discovery. Corrupt its certainty. Make them question what they saw. That one moment of exposure they thought they caught. Turn it into a mirror reflecting their own confusion. Make them doubt their own read. Because the moment they don't know what they know anymore, you regain control. This is the essence of Machiavellian perseverance. You don't repair your image, you hijack perception itself. Then there's another rule, one Machiavelli used like a scalpel. Study others, but starve them of study. Become obsessed with observation. Watch how people react when challenged, when praised, when ignored. Learn their emotional reflexes, their patterns, their tone shifts. You should know what they'll say before they say it, but never let that same energy turn toward you. Don't explain your beliefs. Don't reveal your goals. Don't talk about what you're planning. You ask questions, you listen, you observe. But when the spotlight turns toward you, you pivot, smile, deflect. If they push harder, laugh it off. Compliment them instead. You stay a mystery wrapped in politeness. And while they're guessing what's inside your mind, you're mapping every corner of theirs. That's the battlefield Machiavelli preferred. One-way transparency. You see everything, but no one ever truly sees you. Now, here's a tactic most people are too afraid to use. The calculated disruption of your own pattern. If you've built a calm, steady, unreadable image, shake it. Not often, not chaotically, just enough. Suddenly become animated when you're usually quiet. Disappear for a few days. Show a burst of emotion, then retreat back to stillness. Why? Because even unreadable patterns can become predictable if they never change. If people get used to your calm, they stop fearing it. But when you inject controlled unpredictability, you reset their expectations. You make them question if they ever understood you at all. That reset restores your leverage. Machiavelli didn't want to be seen as chaotic. He wanted to be unreadable until it was useful to be unsettling. When he acted, it always landed twice as hard because it was never expected. The goal isn't to be unpredictable all the time. That's chaos. The goal is to be unreadable until necessary, and then to strike like thunder from a clear sky. When you master this, you stop playing defense. You stop explaining. You stop performing. You become the storm people sense coming but can never predict. Machiavelli understood that people don't just want to know you. They want to map you. They want patterns, reactions, guarantees. Because once they can predict you, they can control you. Your job is to deny them that map completely. They'll try to get under your skin, not through open conflict, but through access, through questions disguised as curiosity, jokes that feel like tests, compliments that carry hidden hooks. The world isn't asking you to open up because it cares. It's asking because it wants information. And information is power. But remember, Machiavelli's rule was never about total isolation. He wasn't advocating for walls so high no one could see you. He believed in selective revelation. Give people just enough to feel like they know you, but never enough for them to own you. You share fragments, never the whole. You give warmth, but not access. Familiarity, but never intimacy. And that's the next principle. Be familiar, but never intimate. People should feel like they get you, your humor, your tone, your style, but not your core. That's where most people fail. They mistake being liked for being known. But once someone truly knows you, they can predict you. And once they can predict you, your advantage evaporates. So speak casually. Joke if needed. Show warmth, but never show need. Never show desire you haven't already mastered. Never show pain that isn't under your control. You can be human, but you can't be readable. Your mind stays behind glass. They can see the painting but never the blueprint. And if you want to dominate social interactions without saying much, learn Machiavelli's next secret. Let them talk. You don't have to dominate the conversation. You dominate by listening. Silence makes people nervous, and nervous people fill silence with words. Let them. They'll reveal everything. They'll tell you what drives them, what scares them, what they crave. And the more they speak, the more they believe you're harmless. That's their first mistake. The less you say, the more they assume. And the more they assume, the more they expose. Eventually, they start tripping over contradictions, revealing their insecurities, showing you their strategy without realizing it. You didn't outtalk them, you outweighted them. And when you finally speak, it's one sentence that cuts the entire conversation in half. That's what Machiavelli did better than anyone. He let others build the fire, and then he walked in holding the match. You don't need to dominate through words. You dominate through control of the frame, because the person who speaks less controls more. And when you learn to use silence as a strategy, people will feel your presence even when you say nothing. They'll wonder what you're thinking. They'll fear what you're planning. And they'll never realize you've already won the moment they started guessing. Now let's move into one of Machiavelli's sharpest weapons, internal containment. This is what separates people who play the power game from those who are destroyed by it. See, most people think self-control means not yelling, not reacting, not lashing out. But Machiavelli's version goes much deeper. It's not just about controlling your reactions, it's about containing your truth. Your plans, your doubts, your fears, your excitement, all of it should live behind closed doors. The more emotionally transparent you are, the more exposed your boundaries become. The world doesn't need to see your process. It only needs to see your results. When you're insulted, you smile. When you're challenged, you observe. When you're praised, you downplay it. When you're doubted, you nod. You don't need to defend what's real. Truth doesn't need your protection. Let them question you. Let them underestimate you, because silence shields better than argument ever could. The less people know about your emotional triggers, the more protected you are. They'll start probing, trying to find buttons to push, but they'll be pressing in the dark. Eventually, they'll get tired. They'll lose interest. Cold ambiguity becomes your armor. You don't react, you register, you don't block, you redirect. And when the time comes, you don't explode. You strike cleanly and quietly. That's power. Now here's a more ruthless layer. Give them the wrong read on purpose. This is when you stop just being unreadable and start becoming dangerous. Let certain people believe you're weak, naive, or soft. Let them think you don't understand what's going on. Don't correct them. Don't defend yourself. Let them get comfortable thinking they figured you out. Then, at the right moment, flip everything. Move faster, speak colder, decide sharper. That shift will devastate them, because their map of you will collapse. Machiavelli did this all the time. He let his enemies believe he was just a harmless observer, a thinker. And while they relaxed, he moved. He plotted. He positioned himself. And when he finally struck, it looked effortless, like the outcome was inevitable. When you give people the wrong read, you don't just protect yourself. You control their movements. You decide where they'll step, where they'll fall. But to pull this off, you need discipline, something Machiavelli called emotional economy. Every smile, every glance, every nod must be intentional, not fake, just measured. You don't waste energy explaining. You don't react to every opinion. You don't hand people access to your moods. The world runs on emotional noise. People post every thought, every feeling, every meal. They bleed energy for attention. And in that desperation to be seen, they lose their power. You don't. You stay compact, contained, strategic. If someone asks, "What's wrong?" you smile and say, "Nothing important," because it isn't. Not to them. You are not a mystery waiting to be solved. You are a presence to be respected. And the less you give, the more they crave. But they never get close, because you're not here to be understood. You're here to endure. That's the essence of Machiavelli's law of perseverance. You don't burn bright to be admired. You burn steady to survive. Slow, controlled, unbreakable. You don't show your power, you imply it. And implication is always more terrifying than revelation. Because the truth has limits. Mystery doesn't. You want to become unforgettable? Learn this. The most powerful person in any room isn't the loudest. It's the one no one can quite read. Not because they're hiding, but because they simply don't need to be understood. In a world obsessed with visibility and validation, you rise above by embracing opacity. That's why Machiavelli still applies today. Centuries before social media, before image management, before authenticity culture, he understood that the strongest power isn't in being known, it's in being felt. He said the most enduring influence doesn't shout. It whispers, it confuses, it makes others lean in. It invites curiosity, then denies satisfaction. That's the secret to psychological authority, making people chase clarity that never comes. Now let's sharpen this blade further. The next lesson is about the art of unfinished sentences. This was one of Machiavelli's favorite conversational tricks. When you speak, don't always complete your thought. Leave edges hanging, let silence carry tension. Say, "Some people don't really understand what's happening," and then stop. Or, "If I told you what I was working on, it might," and then drift off. You're not doing this to be dramatic. You're doing it to make their minds fill in the blanks. Because the human mind hates unfinished stories. It can't stand open loops. So they'll start completing your sentences in their own heads, revealing more about themselves than they realize. Meanwhile, you've done nothing but create presence. This is how Machiavelli controlled conversations without dominating them. He made people feel like he said more than he did. He implanted tension. His silence made people chase answers that didn't exist. Your quiet pauses, your incomplete thoughts, they make others work. They draw them into your rhythm. They start trying to pull more from you, but all the while, you're the one reading them. That's real conversational dominance, invisible control. Next comes the weaponization of calm. Calmness is not just emotional control. It's communication. In chaos, calm is a declaration. When everyone's voices rise, when tempers flare, when the room gets hot, your stillness becomes a message. I already know how this ends. When you're attacked publicly, blink once, breathe, say nothing. When you're challenged, answer slowly, maybe even with a smirk, or better yet, a question. Calmness makes aggressors question themselves. It makes the room doubt their strength and start to believe in yours. Because stillness is authority. It signals, "You can't move me." Machiavelli would rather be feared for his silence than loved for his words. Because silence leaves space for imagination, and imagination is where fear grows. If you're always calm, always composed, always unreadable, you don't just survive chaos, you command it. And that's the foundation of power in its purest form. Influence without effort. Now, for one of Machiavelli's coldest principles, the illusion of closeness. People want connection. They crave it. And if you're not careful, they'll use that craving to pull information out of you to get closer than they should. So here's what you do. Give them the illusion. Let people feel close to you while never actually getting there. Give them access to your surface, your jokes, your routines, your interests. But keep your inner world sealed. They can know your favorite movie, not your biggest fear. They can know your daily habits, not your ambitions. They can know your opinions, not your next move. You let them touch the shell, but never the engine. This creates trust without exposure. Familiarity without vulnerability. People think they know you, but they're interacting with a mask, a reflection. And when they finally try to use that familiarity against you, they realize there's nothing behind the curtain, no weakness to exploit, no secret to expose. You are there, but untouchable, present, yet unreachable. That's not coldness, that's control. You can still care, you can still connect. But the key is that you choose when, how, and how much. Because power isn't about isolation. It's about regulation, deciding who gets access and for what purpose. When you master this, your relationships become strategic, your emotions become tools, and your silence becomes your greatest source of strength. Let's go even colder. Here's one rule that separates invisible power from visible ambition. Never reveal your timeline. Ambition only becomes dangerous when it's invisible. The moment people know what you're building, how close you are to success, or what your next move might be, they start plotting around it. They calculate, interfere, and sometimes even sabotage it. But when you move in silence, when your progress is unseen, everyone underestimates you. They assume you're idle. They assume you've stopped trying. And that assumption becomes your camouflage. Machiavelli never moved in straight lines. While everyone was watching his words, he was rearranging his alliances. While they thought he was waiting, he was already positioned. And when he finally struck, it looked effortless, almost like destiny. So, don't announce your goals. Don't post about your progress. Don't explain your next step. Let them think you've lost momentum, when in truth, you're just out of sight. Because when your results finally appear, they won't see the work. They'll see inevitability. That's not luck. That's silent domination. Here's another principle that haunts your enemies. Never let anyone feel like they've figured you out. If someone believes they've cracked your code, break the pattern. Say something out of character. Reverse a routine. Compliment someone you usually ignore. Take a path they never expected you to walk. You're not being inconsistent. You're reasserting unpredictability. When people think they can map you, they relax. They stop guarding themselves. And that's when they're easiest to outmaneuver. Machiavelli understood that predictability invites attack, but fluidity creates fear. When you stay in motion, when you're hard to define, people don't know whether to trust you or fear you. So they stay cautious. And that caution keeps you safe. People can't betray what they don't understand. They can only betray what they can reach. That's why every now and then, you must reintroduce doubt. Don't be the person who's always calm or always logical. Be the person they think is calm until suddenly you're not. Be the one who can smile in silence one moment, then act decisively the next. When people realize they can't predict your reactions, they stop trying to control you altogether. And that leads to one of Machiavelli's most ruthless truths. Power that's invisible is impossible to kill. Think about it. If they don't know what you want, what you fear, or where your limits are, how can they destroy you? They can't. You can't smear what's undefined. You can't frame what's silent. You can't defeat what doesn't reveal its position. That's why Machiavelli didn't chase attention, he used it. He moved like smoke in a locked room, always there, but impossible to corner. You don't need to stand above people to hold power. You just need to be around them untouchable, unreadable, ungraspable. And when the time comes, when everyone believes you're harmless, you strike. Not emotionally, not theatrically, just clean, precise, final. Because the power that isn't seen coming is the power that never misses. Now let's talk about blending in without belonging. This is one of Machiavelli's favorite survival strategies. He believed rulers should never stand too far above their people, but never fall too low among them either. The same logic applies to you. You blend in with the crowd. You mirror their language, their tone, their style, but only enough to appear familiar. You're relatable, not reachable. You participate, but you never fully commit. When you dress, when you speak, when you act, stay one step off. Subtle, but distinct. Enough to fit in, but never enough to belong. When people think you're just like them, they let their guard down. But when they start sensing that you're different, they become cautious. They study you. So you must constantly maintain that thin balance, visible but unreadable. That's how you move through social environments like fog. They see your outline but not your depth. They hear your voice but not your intent. And the moment people realize they can't place you, they give up trying to trap you. You're too slippery to target, too calm to provoke, too detached to manipulate. Fog doesn't fight fire, it smothers it. Now, Machiavelli also warned about one of the most common mistakes people make after being exposed. He called it the disease of explanation. When someone catches a glimpse of who you really are, a weakness, an emotion, a reaction, your instinct will be to explain yourself, to fix the image, to prove you're still in control. Don't. Every word you speak after exposure weakens your stance. Explanations feed doubt. Silence creates mystery. If someone says, "I saw through you," let them believe it. Even better, twist it. Say, "Maybe that's what I wanted you to see." Then walk away. They'll spend hours wondering what that meant. You've just shifted the psychological burden onto them. They're no longer sure what's real, and that uncertainty gives you the upper hand. The point isn't to protect your image, it's to corrupt their perception. Because control doesn't come from being right. It comes from being unreadable. That's the essence of the Machiavellian frame. You don't fix your reputation, you hijack how others think. And you do that through silence, restraint, and unpredictability. You turn every judgment into confusion, every assumption into doubt, every conclusion into another question. Now let's return to emotional economy, the art of conserving energy in a world addicted to expression. Every day, people lose power because they can't stop reacting. Someone insults them online, they argue. Someone praises them, they over-explain. Someone disagrees, and they spiral into debate. That's what Machiavelli would call death by noise. You, on the other hand, operate differently. You understand that your energy is currency, and that not everyone deserves to spend it. So when people try to pull reactions out of you, You don't give them what they expect. You give them stillness. You give them uncertainty. You give them nothing to work with. And that's what drives manipulators mad. Your refusal to participate in their emotional economy. They'll call you distant. They'll call you cold. They'll call you heartless. But what they're really saying is, I can't control you. Because in the power game, emotions are open doors, and you've locked yours from the inside. Remember this, the person who controls their reaction controls the outcome. The one who speaks last controls the narrative. That's why Machiavelli said power isn't seized through aggression, it's preserved through patience. Silence, when used with intent, isn't emptiness. It's a mirror that makes others reveal themselves. So when someone attacks, don't rush to defend. When they praise, don't rush to thank. When they probe, don't rush to open up. Let the silence hang long enough for them to expose their own motives. Because while they're trying to read you, you're already rewriting them. We've reached the final layer of Machiavelli's warning. The one truth that separates those who survive power from those who are destroyed by it. The less they know, the longer you last. In a world addicted to exposure, control doesn't belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the quietest mind, the one who listens more than they speak, who withholds more than they reveal, who lets others overexpose themselves while staying invisible. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He lived in a time of spies, shifting loyalties, and silent betrayals. He knew that being known was a liability, because once people think they've read you, they stop respecting you. They start strategizing against you, so he practiced what few dare to do today. He became deliberately unreadable, not by hiding, but by shaping what others were allowed to see. This is where the discipline of invisible power begins. When others rush to explain, you pause. When they overshare, you stay vague. When they seek validation, you stay detached. Your silence becomes a filter. Only what serves your strategy escapes. Everything else stays locked within. Every piece of information you give away is potential ammunition. Every emotional outburst, every confession, every authentic display gives people the coordinates of your psyche. And once they have your coordinates, they can attack from precision. That's why the first law of Machiavellian endurance is simple. Starve them of access. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe anyone your process, your plans, or your pain. If they ask how you're doing, smile and say, better every day. If they ask what you're working on, reply, something worth the wait. If they push harder, let silence be the answer. Because curiosity is a leash. The more they want to know, the more power you hold. Machiavelli mastered what I call one-way transparency. He asked questions but rarely answered them. He listened deeply but revealed little. He made people feel seen while staying unseen himself. That's how you dominate social dynamics without confrontation. You become the observer, the mirror, the one collecting data while appearing harmless. People expose themselves through conversation, you just need to let them. They fill silences with their secrets, their biases, their motives. And the quieter you are, the more they'll show you. But restraint is not enough. You must also project calm. Calmness is Machiavellian control in its purest form. In chaos, calm is dominance. When emotions rise and you stay still, you signal something primal. I am not affected by you. Machiavelli didn't out-yell his opponents. He outlasted them. His stillness created discomfort, and discomfort made others reveal themselves. Try it. When people try to provoke you, just breathe and observe. Don't flinch, don't defend, don't explain. Let their noise collapse under its own weight. The calm one always looks like the authority. Because chaos always submits to composure. Now here's where Machiavelli's real genius shines. He knew that even unreadable people can become predictable. So he practiced calculated disruption. Every so often, you must break your own pattern, change your rhythm, withdraw when you're expected to engage. Act warm after being cold. Praise someone you usually ignore. That small deviation resets people's perception of you. It forces them to rethink everything they assumed they knew. Predictability invites manipulation. Uncertainty breeds respect. Machiavelli wanted to be calm, not passive quiet, not boring. He aimed to keep others slightly off balance, never quite sure what version of him they were dealing with. Because confusion, when deliberate, is power, and confusion is born from ambiguity. You must learn the art of unfinished tension. When you speak, don't fill every silence. When you write, don't complete every idea. Leave edges open. Let people wonder. Say, some people don't realize what's actually happening. Then pause. Or, if I told you what I'm building, it might change everything. Then smile. That pause, that incompleteness, hooks the human mind. It forces them to chase meaning, and while they chase, they hand you control. Machiavelli used this to dominate conversations without ever raising his voice. He spoke less, but made people think more. His silence was a canvas others painted their own fears on. That's the psychology of presence. When you say little, your words echo longer. Now, let's talk about the illusion of closeness. People crave connection. They'll do anything to feel like they know you. So let them just enough to keep them satisfied. Give them warmth, but not access. Familiarity, but not intimacy. You can share your humor, your opinions, even small details about your day, but never your desires, your doubts, or your next move. They should feel like they understand your surface, but never your core. They can see your mask, but never your mind. That's how you become both approachable and untouchable. Because here's the truth. People can only betray what they understand. If they can't define you, they can't predict you. And if they can't predict you, they can't control you. Let them think they figured you out. Let them believe you're simple. Then, when the time comes, break their illusion with precision. That shock restores your leverage. That's what Machiavelli called the shadow strike. Appearing harmless until the moment you're not. He didn't win through force. He won through perception. He made others so uncertain about his intentions that they destroyed themselves trying to interpret them. That's the level of mastery you're aiming for, when your mystery becomes their mental prison. And here lies the final truth. Power that's invisible is impossible to destroy. If they don't know what drives you, they can't block it. If they don't know what hurts you, they can't use it. If they don't know your plans, they can't stop them. You become like smoke, always there, never graspable. Machiavelli's enemies tried to smear him, trap him, and break him. But you can't kill what you can't define. His influence still whispers through time because his strategy was never personal. It was elemental. That's what you must become. Not louder, not softer, just less visible. Stop feeding people data about yourself. Stop letting them map your emotions, your thoughts, your next moves. Close the book they keep trying to read. Let them wonder. Let them fill the gaps with their imagination. Because imagination is a more powerful weapon than truth. You're not here to be understood. You're here to endure. So burn slow. Speak rarely. Move silently. And when they finally think they figured you out, that's when you strike. Not loudly, not emotionally, just decisively. Because by the time they realize what you were doing, you'll already be gone.